Hi, everyone, and good morning from a very rainy Kent. I'm Lisa Chomette. Thank you very much, Nick, for the great introduction. And over the next 25 minutes, I'll be telling you a little bit more about how you can utilize your reputation within your community and how your organization can build trust. Now, obviously, what you learn and what I'm hoping you will learn is the benefits of building and maintaining trust, how you can practice transparency, and more importantly, as we are in a cost of living and cost of giving crisis, how you can provide support and guidance to your supporters during that very difficult climate. A very quick word about our partners, PI.org. They're the non-profit organization that run the .org domain name worldwide, and they provide support and education to all non-profits around the world, how to increase their online presence, how to improve the digital fundraising, how to be more cyber secure. So please do check out their website and the content that we're creating together. And now, obviously, the importance of trust. As all of you know, trust is essential to any organization, and even more so any charitable organizations. Your donors need to trust that you'll use funds in the right way. Your service users and beneficiaries need to trust that you'll support them and you'll be there along the way in the long term. And your supporters more generally need to trust that you'll use their data in the right way. Obviously, your staff, your volunteers need to trust that it always treat them fairly and honestly. Now, I wanted to share a few findings from a couple of charity commission surveys and other surveys that are from 2021 and 2022. And basically what they show is that charities are generally well regarded, and trust in the sector remains higher than in most other parts of society, which is great. However, there's been a few high-profile scandals, and public sentiments towards charity is slowly growing and becoming more positive, but there are lasting impacts on any negative press. And a small number of cases when charities don't uphold the standard have great repercussion on the whole of the sector. And basically, really, very quickly, a few stats. So over half of the surveyed population view charities as the best way of channeling support to good causes. So that's extremely positive. It means that the public trust charitable organization to do their mission and to improve the society we live in. But a quarter believe only a little or none at all of the money they raised actually helps those intended. And 45% of donors and only a third of the population think charities are doing an effective job at supporting people in a cost of living crisis. So obviously those are surveys out of I want to say a small number of respondents, but still it can be representative of what the population feel, and it's really important for charities to understand what the public and your supporter expect from your organizations. And I would say that there are 4 key areas. The first one is they expect you to show them very transparently where the money you raise goes, and ensure that high proportion of your charity money is used for charitable activity. You need to demonstrate your impact and that you are making the impact you promise via your mission statement. The how is the way you go about making that impact and make sure that it's consistent with the spirit of charity. And very importantly, collective responsibility. And what that means is that all charities uphold the reputation of the sector in adhering to this standard. And when a scandal hits a charity, the whole sector suffers. So the public would like to see a very proactive approach when it comes to showing impact and showing how their money reaches beneficiaries. Because the decision as to whether or not supporting a charity comes from people's perception of your website, and we'll get to it later on. Essentially, efficiency and impact are the 2 most researched elements about charities by potential supporters. So it's really important that you can showcase that in order to maintain trust, build trust, and have a great reputation. Now, let's have a look at some of the benefits of building and maintaining trust. And especially today, which is very much focused on fundraising, many of these characteristics are everything to do with fundraising. And obviously, with trust and high reputation comes loyalty. Loyalty is important for every organization, but it's vital because it's closely linked to your reputation. Loyalty leads to repeat donations, particularly helpful to your organization because you can get greater financial sustainability and long-term viability because you know what would be coming in terms of funds. You get the loyalty from your supporters, from your volunteers, because you can effectively judge how many people you can depend on at any given time, and that's valid for volunteers and staff members. And more importantly, you get the loyalty from your beneficiaries and service users. And you can broadly judge how many people you'll be able to help over the coming, the short and medium term. Building trust means that your supporters and your service users will feel safe when interacting with your organization, and they will return to charities that they trust. If you develop strong relationship with them based on transparency and based on trust, if you show that you're using funds effectively and you're making a real difference in the world, you will have a legion of loyal supporters who will regularly beat the drum of your charity, who will champion your cause, who will amplify your fundraising efforts. Because over 70% of the respondents to the Charity Commission survey said that the decision as to whether or not to support a charity is influenced by friends and family. So it's really important that you have a very strong supporter base that really trust you and that will make sure that your cause and mission is amplified and your fundraising efforts are also amplified. Something else that I found interesting and that you're probably aware, but that there are very much a lot of benefits in measuring your supporters' loyalty. You can spot supporters with low loyalty levels who are at risk of moving away from your organization. You can also, it can help you highlight the most loyal donors who have the biggest potential for further engagement, whether that's, providing time or skills or campaigning on your behalf, raising awareness about your cause. It's also a chance to analyze the effectiveness of your fundraising campaigns, because when you have that data, you're better able to choose whether you want to double down on welcome journey or whether you want to spend more time engaging with your regular donors. So you have a few elements that you can use, like the frequency of donation, the donation amount, and the other ways an individual has engaged with your organization. Especially now, because many people might not feel that they're comfortable giving money, but they might be comfortable maybe giving their time or their skills or just their voice. As an example, Barnardo's has directly responded to a need to improve loyalty amongst new supporters and face-to-face new donors, and they rebranded their welcome journey, and they named it Take My Hand, and that was what was new is that it was really focusing on the benefits that donations to Barnardo's could bring to young people's lives. So again, if you are able to measure your supporters' loyalty in whichever way it is, it would be good to look at that and see how you can improve this. So a good way to build and maintain high reputation and high trust is with transparency. Not only can you mitigate risk, for instance, cyber breaches or financial instability, and you can also actively gain trust. And that's through boosting transparency, because it shows potential supporters that you're honest about your practices, you're willing to learn and improve, you're open to criticism, and you're very proud of the mission and all the activities that you are doing and what your fundraising is contributing to do. A very obvious one, but sometimes a bit daunting, especially from a fundraiser perspective, is the finance and reporting. Transparency boosts trust, and it means that from a finance and reporting point of view, that people will need to know how much goes on your administrative costs, how much goes to your beneficiaries, and how much of the money you raise is spent on staff. And what is important is to make things very clear and very simple and very accessible on your website as well. So obviously it's showing very clear information about the money you spend and where it is spent. You could list also how you can, what your fundraising goals are going to be about. You can highlight how you want to further support your beneficiaries and show the amount of money you need to raise in order to achieve that. What's really important is to have the right metrics, and we have some information on Charity Digital website to help you with identifying these metrics and utilizing them to the best of your ability. Because again, as I was saying earlier, what is important is to show efficiency and impact. Now, efficiency could be almost categorized as meaning that the smallest charities, even with limited fund, can just have as big an impact as a large charity. So not necessarily in terms of the number of services that delivered, but in the quality of these services, and if the time and money is spent in the right places. Fundraising efficiency is how much do you spend to raise each pound. Kidney Research UK has a very clear page on their website and they're showing you how much of a pound is how much against £1 is being raised. And program efficiency, Charity Water is a great example, again on their website, very easy to find on how their funds are used for overhead versus making progress towards their goal. So again, they are showing how the money they raised is funding projects around the world. In either cases, the most important is to show the clear outcomes. So you can include some possible outcome measures like lives saved, increased consumption of something, years of healthy life, years of happy lives. Those are clear outcomes that people can clearly identify. And what is also important is the word effectiveness. Now, the effectiveness is understanding that from your supporters, they need to understand how the money is spent and they want to make sure that it's being spent effectively. So there's a general perception that local charities are better able to demonstrate impact and effectiveness because their beneficiaries and the supporters are closer to the charity. But if you're an international organization or a national charity, think how you can relate to the impact for your donors and highlight some case studies, for instance. I would say that in terms of effectiveness, you need to showcase that in your comms. So, for instance, if you show you run regular evaluation of your program and that you're ready to adapt, people will like that because they will appreciate the fact that you're constantly reviewing effectiveness. There's an American charity called Against Malaria Foundation that has a page dedicated to cost effectiveness. And I found that quite interesting because it provided ways in which it aims to use donations effectively. Now, very quickly, there's also another way you can use tech for greater transparency, and that's the use of blockchain. Obviously, some of you may have seen in the news a very tormented environment for cryptocurrency. But what I would just say is that blockchain via very good platforms such as Alice can help charities show their impact and show the transparency around the impact. And the example I have here, St. Mungo's and Alice, was that it was aimed to raise £50,000 to help lift 15 people out of long-term rough sleeping. And what happened is that the platform Alice, which is a social good platform that links blockchain to charitable causes, was able to freeze donations until St. Mungo's proved and provided evidence that money was spent to meet the defined goals. So again, it was a way to show transparency. The focus on stable finance is something that many of you will probably have reviewed or will start reviewing. I would say that a good way is to you look at diversifying your income if possible. If you can look at more digital fundraising activities or crowdfunding, now is a good time to start taking a look. You can also look at corporate partnerships. By corporate partnerships, I mean you have loads of companies that have volunteers, that have skills, and that have sometimes money that they're willing to provide to local causes. So it's important to be aware of these and to explore these. You could also explore selling merchandise or other products on platforms such as Amazon and eBay, which provide free services for charities, online charity shops. You could review your legacy fundraising and see whether there's any work to be done here, or whether you can relate your end of year campaign with some legacy fundraising goals. And more importantly, gift aid. We'll never cease to repeat these, but every year, £500 million of gift aid is left unclaimed. So if you have a chance, have a look at your gift aid claiming process and see which money you're entitled to, you're able to recover. And on the other side, review your spend. And if you're able to, have a very long and cold, hard look at what you're spending, where you're spending it, with whom. And that would probably help you see where you can reduce your spending and reallocate some of it. Now, moving on to something that will also be very important to maintain your reputation is practicing honesty in comms and marketing. It's important for supporters, but also for donors, your staff and your service users, everyone that interacts with your charity. And basically, there are a few elements that could help with maintaining high reputation. Is displaying your track record. You can add this to your organization history or have a year in review section on your website. If you have, a clear mission, which I'm pretty sure all of you have, is very important to make it clear and highlight it in every way you can, because people will be able to connect more. If you're able to, why don't you showcase the strength of your team, whether that's your leadership team, your staff, your volunteers, because people will love to put a face to the name, and they will like to see that the charity they support is also caring for their staff well-being and is also making sure that their staff are happy to contribute to your mission. If necessary, charity should always apologize. We've got great resources on how to say sorry as a charity. A few elements I would say is, in order to maintain this trust and to uphold it, it needs to be a sincere apology, a specific one, and more importantly, show the clear steps you are taking to change the situation and how you can be held accountable. An interesting example that I found when researching for today's session, even though it's in America, it's very recent, and it's Women's March that had to apologize to online because the fundraising amount or the donation amount they were requesting had a bad connotation for some members of the US population. They were basically asking for $14.92. That is related to obviously Christopher Columbus Day and some history issues, and maybe many people reacted angrily to that lack of sensitivity. And Women's March apologized because they clearly were aware that the ask for fundraising wasn't perceived positively, and they took the step to apologize, and it was very strong of them to do that. I would also say that really, what really interests us, especially in that climate, is how to actively protect your supporters. Now, you know that obviously there are many ways you can build trust and maintain trust, mainly through transparency. And what's important is to showcase that as best as you can. Proactively, I would say that something that's really important is to show you're protecting your supporters' data. Using tech and digital opens your organization to vulnerabilities. Obviously, you are being reactive, you're using digital fundraising to achieve more, and you're engaging with your supporters online. But cybersecurity is very important, and make sure that your supporters' data is protected is paramount. 66% of organizations that we surveyed with the NCSC report that a cyber attack will affect their operations. It would be very detrimental to their reputation, and it would have loads of financial and legal damages. So very quickly, what you can do and start looking at doing or implementing is make sure you've got strong endpoint security software, strong antivirus, regularly update the software. Have a look whether you can move to the cloud storage if not done yet, or whether you can optimize that so that you're very making sure that your supporters' data is protected, and you can show that, and you can have the transparency with regards to your cybersecurity approach. So people will know that even if, you know, your overhead costs are obviously substantial, that money is wisely spent internally to make sure that everything is protected. When it comes to your supporters, listen to them and be honest again in your comms. We've all learned through the pandemic that, empathy and honesty go a long way. It's important, I would say, not to bombard supporters with ask. A balance would be 80-20 rule. 80% of your content, whether that's on social media or whether that's on your email marketing, should be about relevant content that will use your supporters, that will be used by your supporters. So sharing information about what you do, sharing success stories, sharing also tips and advice on how your supporters can better, resist the cost of living crisis, putting up resources from other organizations that can help, everyone with their worry around raising bills or not being able to give to your charity. So if you have loads of ways that you can show your supporters they can support you, whether that's volunteering, campaigning, signing petition, mobilizing peers, gift times and skills, all of that is very precious to your charity. It doesn't need to be a monetary donation, but it can be all of that. And many people will feel more comfortable doing that in that period. The remaining 20% will be fundraising, donation ask, and that's perfectly fine. What will be interesting is maybe to show tangible example to what people's money will be spent on. If they give you £10, what will it be spent on? Do you have like great stories that you can highlight, which will make your supporters feeling more empowered to continue to support your charity? More importantly, thank your supporters. The ones that are regular donors, the ones that even are one-off donors, they're doing something amazing, especially in that context. So take time to thank them, to really show them how their money is really helping your cause. On the opposite, if a supporter cancels the regular donation, show that you understand and show you have empathy for the situation. You can ask if they're comfortable with giving less on a monthly basis or whether they would like to be contacted later on in the year. The way you handle this interaction will go a long way because people will remember. And to refer to what I was saying earlier, the majority of people pick a charity based on the feedback they get from their friends and family. So it's really important that, especially now, you show empathy and honesty with everyone that's interacting with your organization. If you're able to, speak to your funders or other large donors, understand what information they need from you to assess whether they can top up their funding. Make sure that you understand if they can give unrestricted funding so that you can better allocate the funding as you see fit. Have obviously a very robust proposal to back up your ask. Be transparent in your plans, and again, it will show your funders that you're acutely aware of the situation and that you know what steps you're going to take in order to mitigate that risk for your supporters and for your organization. Also, protect your supporters, especially in that climate. Many people are more vulnerable. There's a lot of, phishing emails or scams going around. So having clear communications about what your mission is, who you are, making it easy for people to reach out to you if in doubt, or reach out to you more generally, I think is also very helpful. It could be that if your donation page is taking people to another website, have you analyzed that? Are you making sure that, everything is fine? There's no risk for people to be taken to another website, for instance. Your welcome and your thank you emails, do they make it clear that what the donation is for, what your mission is? So again, protecting your supporters is also making sure that they know who they're interacting with, that they can trust that they're still interacting with your organization, and making sure that they can reach out to you, whether that's on social media, on your website, or on any comms that you're sending. I will end this very quick overview of today's session with two examples that I quite liked. The first one is Wild Young Parents Project, which is based in Cornwall, and that is supporting young parents and their babies and young toddlers in Cornwall. And they've realized that many of their beneficiaries were, missing some sessions because of the cost of living crisis, and they were worried about, fuel and other costs associated with going to the session. So they have created a cost of living working group, and they are focusing on offering practical and emergency support to their beneficiaries. Practical support on their website, as in, if you're struggling, we're here to help. Here are some information that you will find useful. Because it's on their website, it can be read by their beneficiaries, but also their donors, other supporters. So it's really showing again that they are understanding how the base is feeling. The other element that I've seen is a video by Kidney Care UK that's called Priced Out of Existence, and that clearly highlights the impact the cost of living crisis is having on beneficiaries. And from a fundraising perspective, I found it really impactful because it really showed how important, more than ever, a donation to Kidney Care UK was vital, and how important it was, because it really showed that beneficiaries were suffering, and the fact that the charity was recognizing that and highlighting that with a very powerful story made it even more important and essential to show the impact to donors. So those are two examples I found. There are many other great ideas. I'm pretty sure that you have, hopefully, quite a few questions. As obviously you're aware, the session recording would be made available. I'm obviously aware that there's been quite a lot of information for many of you, but I'm hoping that even if it's a few elements, it's giving you food for thought. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Lisa. There was a lot of information there that I think was really useful to so many different people. So thank you. And you are right. We do have a few questions. We do have a few questions to go through. As we're a little bit lost of time, I'm only going to do two of them though. So one of these ones, yeah. So would the 80-20 rule apply to an e-commerce as well for supporters who are more value exchange led?
I would say so. Yes. Especially if your supporters are, value led. So again, it's really important to show the impact newsletters being about, oh, look at what your donation has done. From an e-commerce point of view, I would say that, does that charity have specific merchandise, or do they have other things that they're selling? Are they on Amazon, on eBay, or do they have their own website? Do we know? It'd be interesting. Yeah.
We can add a little bit more into that. And just to mention to everyone, you can connect with Lisa if you have more detailed questions you want to answer on this platform. So she will be there to help. But yes, I think for what we've got, that was a good answer. Definitely. Thank you, Lisa. We'll go for one more because this one's got a few upvotes. So, and I think it's a really good question, actually, is how can charities be as transparent as possible when we can't be fully sure where people's donations are going?
That's a very good question. I would say that as much information as you can give will be very much appreciated. If you want to lump under, administrative costs, overhead costs, do your best to explain and to be transparent, to say that we're doing our best for, the £10 that you give, the majority of your £10 goes to our beneficiary or our service users. And we're working on making this donations even more transparent. So, keep checking regularly. But I would say that having that honesty about, being very open and saying, we want to make sure, and we're making sure that your £10 go to the person, to the people in need. I think that will go a long way already. Yeah. So again, having that clarity in the comms is already very important. People will rarely go line by line in your budget, but if you can show a very simple graph of what £10 donation contributes to, and have a bit of an overview, I think that could be a good start.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Lisa. I think we've definitely run out of time, unfortunately. So we'll try and answer some of these questions offline. But thank you, everybody, for joining this session.